Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special AMA session that we have for the Fintech Open Hackathon. As you know, the last date for submission of the entries is Friday, 25th February by noon, by 12 p.m. And we are here to explain things. If you have any questions, we'll take them later on. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to start off with explaining what the format of the hackathon is, what are the different elements of the hackathon, and so we'll be talking about the use cases, what is expected, what should be the final product. We're going to talk about PhonePe Pulse data. We're also going to be talking about the account aggregator sandbox. And then if you have any other questions beyond that, we'll open it up for questions. I would recommend that people ask the questions using the Q&A feature. And if the question is not clear, then maybe I'll ask folks to unmute themselves. We have here with us today Tirthankar, Shikhar, and Irfan from the PhonePe team. And we have Aditya and Gandharv from the Setu team. And also we have Aniket from the DevFolio team. What I'll do is I'll hand it over to Tirthankar. He's going to talk about the hackathon in general, what is expected. And once he's done, he'll invite the other speakers to talk to. Over to you, Tirthankar.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. Is the screen visible?
Yeah, we can see the PPT now.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Tirthankar. I work as an engineering manager in PhonePe, taking care of the growth and monetization vertical. So yeah, the purpose of the hackathon is simple. First of all, welcome to the hackathon. The purpose is very, very simple. It's to ride on the huge fintech wave that Indian ecosystem is currently on. And it is to actually promote the open data APIs that exist, and it is to leverage and get insights, good insights, I would say, on from the open data sources that we have around us. So basically, as you must be knowing, PhonePe is actually the market leader in terms of UPI payments. We actually have 46% of UPI market share. Make our data open for the ecosystem to use. So as rightly named, PhonePe Pulse actually has the pulse of the financial data or of how people actually spend, people actually send data, and people actually grow their money, right? So it is at the heart of a lot of the transactions that are happening in the Indian ecosystem, and we want you to leverage that data in order to create or build the solutions. We want the hacks to be using this aggregate data in order to build and in order to solve a few of the problems that you feel need to be solved in the fintech domain over and above what already exists, and over and above the humongous fintech set of solutions that exist around us. In addition to that, we also want you to use the Setu Aggregator AA sandbox. Few of the other open source data platforms that exist around us can also be used, like the OGD platform, the Open Government Data Platform, the RBI reports on payments. However, if you are aware of any other open data source in the fintech domain, you're free to use that as well. Here are few of the samples that you may sample ideas or sample use cases that you may consider building. For example, you can create an expense management with the Setu AA sandbox allows you to gather data from different sources for a particular user. And that gives you a very good that gives you enough opportunity to create a holistic 360-degree view of how an individual can manage the expenses. You can use it to build that, and you can pair it up with the, or you can marry it with the data that uh, PhonePe Pulse provides you to have different cuts, be it location cuts or category cuts, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think you can find these example use cases in the Devfolio portal as well. So try and I would say rack your brains, get the ideas coming out of your mind. And yeah, I think I would now like to hand it over to Shikhar. If you like, Shikhar, if you want to talk more about PhonePe Pulse.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Tirthankar. Uh, Hello all. First of all, welcome to the PhonePe Open Data FinTech Month Hackathon. Uh, what I'll do quickly is I'll walk you through how the data is structured on PhonePe Pulse. PhonePe Pulse is the open data initiative that we have here at PhonePe. We've hosted a bunch of APIs on our GitHub page. I'll the the URL for the page is available on the Devfolio microsite, and I'll quickly walk you through how the data is structured. So at a broad level, there are two partitions of every cut of the data which is transactions and user. What that means is transactions essentially show a list of the total the TPV, the total payment value, and the count of the data cut that you're looking at. And the users essentially is a cut into the total number of registered users an app opens for that data cut. Within each cut, the data is further partitioned by time, which is by year and quarter, which essentially means that for starting from 2018, you'll get transaction and user level data for every year and all 4 quarters of the year till the year 2021. Then moving into we also have some special cuts of the data, which are basically partitioned by geography and another cut that I'll be speaking of very shortly. So the geographic partition essentially shows the transactions, which is the TPV and the count for every state. And within every state, we show the transaction, the TPV again, and the count for every district. Similarly, the geographic data is also partitioned by users, for the users, meaning that you get to see the registered users of the total number of registered users for each state, and further diving into every state, you get to see number of registered users and app opens for every district inside a state.
Shikhar, are you presenting
Yeah.
anything?
I'm not presenting.
Okay.
Yeah. So the data is available on PhonePe, the GitHub PhonePe. If you want, I can. If everyone's interested, I can quickly walk you through the data. But I believe that we can do it after I've spoken about it. I'd be happy to answer because it's essentially JSON data that I would recommend everyone to go through first.
Yeah, I think
Cool. Yeah. Let me just give you an overview, and then maybe if everyone's interested, we can walk them through the data cuts. Cool. Then the final cut that we have is called top. It essentially shows, again, as I mentioned, every data is partitioned into two Uber partitions called transactions and users. So for each, under the top aggregate, you see the TPV and count for the top 10 states. And similarly, for each state, you see the top 10 PIN codes. Moving on to the user cut, you see the registered users and app opens for top 10 states and the top 10 pin codes for each state, which is like the top 10 districts for each state.
Shikhar, is it possible for you to take them through the data right now? Is it as you're
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are a few requests for that.
got it. I'll quickly open the. Can you give me the present access?
I think you should be able to.
Okay, got it. Actually, so what I'm doing is I've downloaded the Pulse data from our GitHub page, and I'll just walk you through that data again. Okay. Sorry, I'm taking time to give
No
rules
worries.
and permissions.
So while Shikhar gets the data, just a few announcements. If you have questions, just ask them in the Q&A, and we'll answer them maybe after the end of 10-15 minutes once we're done with all the explanation. I think, Tushar, you might have joined a bit late. We already explained the theme of the hackathon. This recording will be available on the Fintech website, on the Fintech Open website. So you can always refer to it also later. All right. And Shikhar, whenever you're ready, we can go on. So for those who missed it, we will answer the questions in another 5-10 minutes once we've gone through this data first.
Rajesh, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen, Shikhar.
Got it. So as I'll walk you through what I was talking about from the beginning very quickly. So the data's basically you can go to again PhonePe's GitHub page and download the Pulse data. It is available for everyone to download. And once you download it, you'll see data aggregated into like 3 categories. First is the aggregate that I mentioned. So within the aggregate, you see the transactions aggregate. I'll show you how the transactions again within each type of the aggregate. If you notice, they're partitioned by time, which means that starting from 2018, you see transaction data for India for every quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4 represent every quarter. Similarly, if you look at the user data, it is also again partitioned by time. And again, if you go inside a year, you'll see data by data for every quarter. So quickly, just walking you through the data that we have for like the transactions for the country, aggregated transactions for the country, which is India. So you'll see transaction instruments, basically the category of payments, category of transactions that happened in the quarter. And what we show inside the transaction details is essentially the count, the total number of transactions that happened, and the total value of the transactions, right? Cool. The value is in crores. Similarly, if I go to user data, within the user data, you see first again segmented by the year, and then going inside year you see the quarter level data for users in India. What we have here is we have the number of users by the device manufacturer, which means that people who are accessing PhonePe through a Xiaomi device. What we show again here is the total count of the users, and you see the percentage of the share of the device. Okay, and this is representing the number of users on PhonePe, not number of users in India throughout the Xiaomi users. Similarly, if I jump into the geography cut, you can go inside the map folder, and then again you see transactions and users. Just as I mentioned, you see transactions starting from 2018, and I'll again walk you through the first quarter data. You see the TPV and count for all the states, which is essentially all the states, the total number of transactions, and the count and the total. Count is the total payment value and the amount. I'm sorry, I'm confusing the two. Amount is the TPV and the count is the number of transactions. Again, apologies. Similarly, moving to the user cut, you see for the first quarter, you see for every state, you see the total number of registered users and the total number of app opens for every state. Some places you might see app opens as recorded as 0. This is a glitch in the system. Basically, during this time, the app opens were not recorded, and hence we wanted to show accurate data, and hence we're not giving you a fake aggregate here. So this is the data that we have. Again, as I mentioned, every data is inside the geography cut. You see data by states and by districts for each state. What that means is if I go inside the state, you can go inside any state. For instance, in 2018 in Delhi, you see data for all the districts in Delhi. This is present for every state. Again, finally moving to the final cut, which is top. What we show here is the TPV and the count for top 10 states, the top 10 TPVs and the count for state, again, partitioned by state. So you see, these are the top 10 states in terms of the TPV and the transaction value. TPV and the transaction count. And similarly, if I go inside the state data, you'll see for a particular state, you'll see the TPV and the count for every district inside the state. Further diving into the user data for, again, the top, you see users partitioned by top 10 states in terms of registered users, and again, top 10 districts. So if then you go inside, let's say a state, again, wait till you show. So you see top 10 districts inside the registered state, inside the state that you're trying to access. So there are two things that we show inside the user cut, which is you see inside the state cut, sorry, for the user, you see the districts and you see the top 10 districts. In fact, you see all the districts and you see the top 10 pin codes also. So at a high level, this is what we have. What we'll do is we'll open this conversation for questions after we're done with this presentation.
Cool. Thanks, Shikhar. I think we'll move on to Aditya. Aditya, if you can just talk about the account aggregator sandbox. Guys, we know there are a lot of questions. We'll just take 5 more minutes to explain what the account aggregator sandbox is, and then we'll start taking the questions one by one. If you have any question, please put it in the Q&A. Don't put it in the chat. It's difficult to track the questions within the chat section. Over to you, Aditya.
Aditya, do I take it up? Yeah. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Gandharva. I work at Setu along with Aditya. So a brief about Setu is a fintech platform where we build APIs on top of existing banks and any other fintech applications so that anyone can become a fintech company. What we have products across payments, across data, across lending, fixed deposits, etc. Right? So coming to account aggregator, right? So I just want to be able to share my screen, but Aditya, can you share your screen on account aggregator, the docs page? I think I have to give permissions for my Zoom at this point. Yeah, but anyways, so account aggregator is basically a framework designed by Sahamati, an organization appointed by the RBI, where can you scroll to the image, please? Yeah, so where it's basically enables sharing financial information, that is information like my bank account details, my mutual funds details, my insurance details, all via a simple consent mechanism. Consent mechanism is something like approval, right? Like I say, hey, let's say some business you're working with, right? Let's say some Bajaj Finance or someone wants to access your financial data to give you a loan, right? So what they will do is they will ask you permission to say, hey, can I take your HDFC Bank data for the past 6 months and use it to understand how much money you have so that I can give you a better interest rate on your loan, right? So what account aggregator allows us to do is basically share this information from your HDFC Bank directly to the business who is asking you this money, who's asking you this data, right? And the data is completely secure. No one else can read it, and you have full control over the data, right? So you can basically choose not to give approval, or you can go back a day later and say, I don't want to give this data anymore, and take it back, right? So that's basically the account aggregator framework, right? It helps. If you can see this, right, on the right side, you see there are parties called FIPs. FIPs are financial information providers, right? So any institution that can give you financial information, from your mutual funds to your insurance provider to your banks to your any other SEBI, for example, or from Zerodha, etc. Right? Anyone who holds your financial information can give that information to anyone who wants, any other business who wants it, but with your consent, with your approval, right? And that is basically the account aggregator. There are a lot more complexities involved in it, but the other pieces, I mean, let me just talk about the players in this account aggregator framework, right? So there is FIP, that is financial information provider. There is account aggregator, who is the mediator, who makes sure that the data from the FIP to the guy who's asking is transferred seamlessly and securely, right? So the person who is asking for the data, that is the business who's asking for the data, is called an FIU, that is financial information user. And the actual data that travels between these three parties is called the FI data, financial information data, right? So this is in broader sense the overall setup of account aggregator we have. Currently, we have something called as account aggregator sandbox on Setu. You can come visit this page, docs.setu.co, to read about this more. There's all of this information, right? There's an AA, there's FIU, there is consent object, right? Coming to this, so we have an account. You can create an account on Setu, on bridge.setu.co, and basically be able to access this account aggregator APIs yourselves, and be able to create and actually fetch some mock information, mock financial data for yourself, right? So what basically happens is you make a call to create a consent for accessing data, right? So you say, I want access to X and Y data for X and Y period. And once you create an API request for that, you will now be able to get a link for it, and the user will click on that link, open a approval screen. The user approves the request, and once the user has approved the request, you will now be able to fetch that data. So that's the basic flow of this account aggregator sandbox that you see. So there are mostly 4 APIs. I think Aditya can take it from here and take it in depth. Do you want to?
Will do. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
Just a second. Yeah, okay. I stopped sharing, right? Like this Zoom is
Yes, yes,
okay.
we can see your video. That's all.
Yeah, sure. So what I'll do is actually, rather than explaining in-depth detail of what APIs are, what we'll go ahead and do is basically like we'll talk about what you can build in this hackathon, right? Like what is the purpose of this hackathon and why you should use Setu's account aggregator for this. So as GB explained, there are three players in the ecosystem: the FIUs, which wants or requests for the data; the AA, which is like a mediator which flows the data; and FIP has the data which will flow to it. So what you will be building in this hackathon is basically the FIU apps, the apps that actually the end user interacts with, and the apps that actually request for this data and will make sense of this data. Let's say if I have some data across 4 banks, and I want my financial health on what is my credit, what is my debit, how am I doing my savings, or how am I doing my spending graph, whatever it is. If it's across, let's say, 4 to 5 banks or 4 to 5 different institutions, it would be difficult for me to track each and everything, pull all the data into one place and actually see it. So account aggregator actually does this for you. It, on my consent, a third party app can actually fetch data from all these institutions that I have bank accounts in, and gather the data and make some visualization saying, okay, you spend this much in this month, you spend this much using this bank, so on and so forth. So this AA framework basically opens up a lot of opportunities in general to build financial journeys that will actually involve users' financial data, which were not possible before, because previously it was all conventional methods where bank statements used to be shared via email or physical copies or whatever it is. But this AA framework basically gives a way to build a digital first user journey, in order to build better financial products or make sense of the financial data that you're actually pulling. And just to add on to a few use cases that you have seen before, like one more use case that you can basically build on top of income verification is one use case that you can build on top of Setu's AA sandbox. Let's say if there is a company that wants to know your income, you can actually give consent to that particular company or organization. They can pull your bank data and see if the income that you told, like just to verify the income that you are receiving or the money that is being credited to you at the end of every month. There can be use case of loan monitoring. Let's say if some organization gives you a loan, just to check your financial health, to prevent any loan defaults. How are you actually pulling or pushing money into your bank account? Is there enough money for the particular loan organization to actually see that, okay, this person will be able to give back the loan or whatever it is. Now what we'll do is I'll actually open up a sample app that has been built on top of Setu's AA sandbox, where you can yes, okay. So basically it's kind of slow, but let's get on with it. Imagine you are an end user and I'm an end user, and there is this app called Personal Finance that has been built on top of Setu's AA sandbox or Setu's account aggregator, which wants my financial data, so that they say that, okay, you know what, we'll provide you a visualization of what is your credit and debit, what is your total balance, and give you all the details that you need for your let's say savings or spending, whatever it is. So the journey starts by saying me entering my mobile number, and I click on provide access, which is basically me saying that, okay, I am okay to give my financial data to this particular app, which is Personal Finance, so that they can fetch my data. And what this does is, in the background, it actually raised the consent request saying that, uh, to the account aggregator of Setu, saying that this particular person wants to actually, give access to the financial data to us. And we want that consented request from them so that we can fetch that data. So what account aggregator, which is Setu's AA, does is it actually opens up the screen, which is basically the consent manager, which is me as an end user that can interact with, uh, that can say, so this basically, the consent manager is an application that will provide me, that will provide me as an end user the ability to give consent to the request that the FIU just made. So, okay, let me just see the OTP that just came in 676814. And I just verify the OTP. So now what is happening is, in the background, based on this particular mobile number, what Setu account aggregator is doing is fetching all the bank accounts. Basically, only bank account data is available in the AA ecosystem now. So it is actually fetching all the bank accounts that I have with certain FIPs across, which are actually part of this ecosystem, across different entities. Like Setu has 3 FIPs and I have accounts in 3 of them. Ajujas is a bank which I have 3 accounts with. FinView is a bank that I have 1 account with. So these are all mock banks. Basically, we are actually in a sandbox environment. So these are all the mock banks that I have an account with, and I can actually select anything I want. So I'll select Setu FIP, which is basically the bank that I want to give access to. So now personal finance can only pull data from this particular bank account, and I don't want any other bank account to give access of my data to, at least. So now I click on proceed. Now it actually shows me this screen where, so okay, this is the bank account that you selected, and this is the data that you're giving to. So April 1st, 2021 to October 1st, 2021. This is the data that the personal finance app wants, and I'm okay to share that. And basically, you can actually see some extra details like how frequent and what is the data that you want. And if you approve that request, so in the background, what is actually happening is, I as an end user gave consent to Setu account aggregator saying that I am okay with sharing this particular bank account data. And now the account aggregator talks to that particular FIP or bank saying, okay, this particular user of your bank gave a consent to this particular FIU, and that particular FIU wants to fetch this certain amount or certain period of data or for certain frequency or certain types of data. Now the consent is approved. Now what I can do is I can actually go back to the personal finance app. Now what is happening in the background is, my app or this personal finance app is actually making calls to the account aggregator to actually fetch the decrypted data which they get from the FIP, which is basically my bank account details. So if you see this, it will actually take some time because the FIP has to apply all the filters, and once that is loaded, you should be able to see all the insights that this particular app has given me. So as this is mock data, my account has been named Sai Srinivas Atreya with an account number of 693 with a PAN number that I have a balance of this much. And from Jan to June, my total spendings are this much, with a credit percentage in that pie chart is that, and the debit percentage of pie chart is that. So this is basically a use case that you can build on top of Setu's account aggregator by pulling financial information of a certain user and actually giving him insights that, okay, during this period, this was the amount that went in, this was the amount that went out, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is a what do we say? This is an open source app. What we did was we open source the code of this particular app. So you can, maybe for this particular hackathon, you can just yeah, you can just maybe fork it and clone it on your end, maybe do some tweaking here and there, build a similar app if you want to on top of Setu's account aggregator. But don't just submit the same code. We'll be checking for it. So plagiarism check is there. So yeah, this is basically the entire, at least the Setu's account aggregator on what you can do in this hackathon or what you can build. So yeah, that's mostly the whole introduction, as well as in general, the thing about account aggregator or Setu's AI sandbox. I don't think there is anything else, GB. I think we can open up for questions.
Yeah.
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 Sorry. Go ahead, Gandharv.
Unless you think we should talk about the APIs.
No, I think right now let's let that be. I think we have Irfan from PhonePe who's going to talk about. I think the PhonePe Pulse data. Is that correct? Or
yeah.
over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining in. Okay. Adding on top of what Gandhar and Ankit actually walked us through. Okay. Aditya walked us through. So as you would have noticed that what account aggregator is bringing to the table is actually verified information of the user. Okay. So now the kind of essentially areas of hackathon that we'll focus on, you have verified user information coming your way, and then you have verified population level information coming your way as well. Okay. Bringing these together, okay, what magic can be created is what this hackathon is all about. Okay, so population level data, if you have to look at, we have verified population level data coming in the form of PhonePe Pulse, open government data, platform data, then RBI's payment data. Okay, and you have essentially sandboxes being provided, okay, from Setu, both for both for AA as well as payments. Okay, now as you can see, there are good many things that can get built with this. Okay, as an example, we have covered those in themes. Okay, so this entire hackathon is to focus on what good things can be brought out. Okay, which can sort of essentially make customers' life easier. Okay, given essentially bringing these two sources of information. Okay, and mind you, this is verified information. Okay, both at an individual level as well as at a population level. Okay, with these two available at your disposal. Okay, I mean the things that can be the things that are possible to be built can only be imagined, right? So I wish you all our very best. Okay, and of course Rajesh will share with you all the links that you can reach out to us with. Okay, feel free to drop by any suggestions. We will soon be opening up the Q&A right away. Okay, Rajesh, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Irfan, thanks Aditya, Shikhar, thank you everyone. I think let's jump on to the Q&A. So the panelists, you guys can also see the questions. Let's go from the top. First question is, we have idea about improved visualization and derived intelligence based on the digital payments data. Is it compulsory to use 2 sandboxes? That's a question by Pramod. Anybody wants to take that?
Let me take a stab at it. Hey Pramod, thanks for asking. Okay, there is nothing called compulsory over here. Okay, to be literally correct. So sticking to the theme essentially will open up a lot of opportunities for you. You have data at your disposal using which essentially you can do a lot of good. Okay, these sandboxes that are provided are but a means to get better at what you intend to do. Okay. To answer simply, no, they are not compulsory. Okay, but they can bring a ton of value. Okay, to your hacker, to your proposal, hackathon proposal. Yeah.
Okay, can you explain the theme of the hackathon? I think this is already done, Tushar. In consideration of time, I think if you can just take a look at the video later, that will be great. Next question is regarding sandboxes. Is it mandatory to include them in an application? I think you just answered that. Question from Siddharth: is the API in the API docs? There's a consent request object API. Can you explain more about the consent start and consent expiry?
Yeah, okay, sure. So basically, Siddharth, what consent expiry and consent start is saying that. So you have seen that whenever we actually click the button on provide access, what is actually happening in the background is FIU raises a consent request to the AA, right? So consent start is basically saying that, okay, this is the time from which I want the consent to start, or from this point, or from, let's say, from the point that I click there. And consent expiry says that, okay, how much time can I as an FIU save this consent for? So let's say if you put 6 months, there is no need to ask again to the end user, okay, do you want me to, or can I fetch it or not? So basically the end user has given you the consent for 6 months. And we as an account aggregator will make sure we show this data to the end user saying, okay, this particular app has asked for 6 months of your consent. Are you okay with that? So basically that actually explains what consent start is, and consent expiry is after that 6 months, that consent basically expires. And after that, you can't basically do anything with that consent. So if I say that, okay, you have my consent to fetch my financial data for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, you can't really fetch it because the consent has ended. You have to raise a new consent request again, saying that, okay, now I want to fetch again. So basically that's the consent start and expiry.
Thanks, Aditya. Next question is by Guru. Can we get mentor feedbacks during the hackathon? And I think there was a similar comment in the chat saying that how can I reach out if I have further queries? Discord has really less mods and none of them reply. Aniket, is this something that you can talk about?
Yeah, so feel free to reach out to us on Discord. We have a mentor role specifically. So we have Aditya and everyone on Discord. So just make sure that you're tagging in the appropriate channel. You can just use the @mentor role and someone definitely will be getting back to you.
And have we added this information on the DevFolio site?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's already there. All right, so use the Discord channel, guys. Folks from Setu and PhonePe and of course DevFolio will be there. All right, next question. So to conclude, what should I make? An app or just some features for PhonePe or anything else? Who wants to take that?
I'll take a stab at it. An app or just some feature for PhonePe. Okay, just so to clarify, nothing specifically for PhonePe is getting built. Okay, the entire idea is to sort of bring out the richness, okay, and the goodness associated with it by bringing the kind of data, okay, around which the entire hackathon is based on. Okay, we are celebrating essentially the open fintech month around the open data platforms. Okay, so it is around, you can to put it simply, come up with a standalone app, okay, that shows the goodness, okay, your idea and how essentially it works. That should be fine.
I think the next question also, maybe you can just talk about that. Yeah. What is considered as a working prototype?
Yeah.
Is a working app expected as a hack?
Yes, preferably a working app is preferred.
Yeah, I think the next question also the same. This Mohit, we would like you to submit a video also, a video demo of how the app works. But yes, you will need to come up with a working prototype. You can't just submit a video saying that, you know, this is how the app is going to work. It has to actually work. We'll probably be also looking at deployment of the app. And so yeah, it has to be a working prototype.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Can a decentralized app be built using Setu aggregator data in fintech field?
So does Tushar mean a DApp, and are we going through Web3? Is that the case? So, I mean, sure, like, see, it's as simple as if you're talking about a Web3 app, and if you're actually building something on the blockchain, if you are able to get the data which is available, which is outside of blockchain, onto the blockchain using Oracle or let's say anything, I think that would be the winner. I really think so.
Now
So
that,
yeah.
now that you said that, I think everybody will start doing that.
No, I think the idea is good. Pretty neat to actually think about it in that way, where if you're building something on the blockchain and pulling data which is in real life onto the blockchain, let's say via an oracle or anything, I think definitely that's a good idea. I mean, if that's what you meant, Tushar. If not, please do feel free to.
Tushar, if you want to unmute yourself,
Yeah.
you can just clarify your question.
All right, I'm building an
Okay.
oracle for Setu.
All right, let's move on to the next question then. This is done. Hi, I'm new to this competition. Can you please explain to me how to get those targets to pen test? This is by Ramji. Maybe you want Ramji to explain his question. Ramji, if you can unmute yourself and just explain what you mean by that.
Hi, sir. Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening. Please go ahead. Ask your question.
Actually, I think about this is a bug bounty competition. I think so. It's not about bug bounty.
Right. This is not a bug bounty competition. No.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ramji. Next question. Can PhonePe include UPI payments for teens? I don't know if this is related to the hackathon or if this is a product idea. Again, Sriram, if you want to, one second, let me see if I can unmute Sriram. Yeah, Sriram, if this is related to the hack or not, please let us know.
Yes, sir. This is Sriram from Visakhapatnam. I'm a 16-year-old actually.
Hi, Sriram. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm a 16-year-old from Visakhapatnam. Actually, like I have learned coding and through APIs, I thought of building an application with the Setu, with the help of Setu.
Okay.
Like I had a doubt that only payments regarding the adults or also the teenagers that I meant. Like, we have PhonePe and other wallets. So can we also include the payments, like the expenditure circles of PhonePe also in it? Like it's only for adults or for teens?
I think I kind of get what you're trying to ask here. So okay. Using Setu's account aggregator sandbox, right? You won't be able to get FAM-based data. Like there is no division like, okay, this is adult data or this is teens data. There is nothing like that. Currently, it's just mock data. What we wanted you to do, at least in this hackathon, is build something using that mock data. Once you get this real life data, right? Once you actually build this app using real life, fetching real life data of anyone, whether it's adults or teens, you can take a choice. Like if you want your app only to concentrate on teens, let's say, you can just pull data of certain age groups or so on and so forth. But for now, there is no data like that saying, okay, for teens or for adults, and there is no data of FAMPay also. We just have mock data, which is deposits.
Yeah, thank you. So so the conclusion is that we need to make a mock application of expenditure.
Exactly. Not of expenditure. If that's the idea you want to build, you can, but you can build anything. So again, just to reiterate on what Irfan said, this is like a revolution that is actually happening in India, and you can be pioneers, or you get to actually build the very first drafts of very first MVPs of this particular open data that is available. And there is a lot of scope that you can leverage to actually be in that particular particular ecosystem, or in this particular open data revolution that is happening. So just go berserk. Just make sure, how will you actually think about having open data in at your own backyard, and how can you use it? How can you make sense of it? Yeah, the whole drawing board is open for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you. And heartening to see that even youngsters are participating. All right, next question. What is the fetch type object that is periodic or one time mentioned in API docs? Can you give some examples?
Sure. This is, I think, Setu's. So basically, fetch type is like, so what that fetch type parameter says is, should an FIU fetch your data periodically or just once? So basically, what happens is the FIU can actually write a cron job for every, let's say, 2 days or 5 days or 10 days to fetch this data periodically. So for that particular amount of time that it wants to fetch, or it can only just fetch once. So that is basically the fetch type parameter that you can define as an FIU, that if you want to fetch it in a periodic way, or you just want it one time, let's say once every month, sort of a thing. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Aditya. How different is Setu from InMoney? I don't know if this is related to the hackathon, but do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think Aditya are on mute. But so Setu is not, I mean, InMoney, I think mostly goes through your messages and tracks all of your expenses and all your expenses and purchases and all of that. But Setu directly talks to the FIP or the bank, right? That you have already your account linked to, and then basically passes on that information to you or your apps, right? It's InMoney basically looks at your SMSs to get that. Sometimes it's inaccurate. It's mostly not always the same. It only restricted to account information, bank account information, right? Like only your transactions. You may not get your bank account information. So if I want to, as a business, want to verify your bank account, saying, hey, is this account number is yours or not? What is your PAN number and all of that? Only that I can do with account aggregator.
Thanks, Gandharv. I don't think this is related to the hackathon. So I'm just gonna discard that. What type of app is accepted for this hackathon? Can we create a web app?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any kind of app.
Any kind of app. Okay, done. Will this data also be shared with other orgs other than Setu?
Data.
Which the
Let
account aggregator data? No, only you have access to it. No one else has access to it. Get that access answers. How do we access Setu API? Okay, there's one answer in the chat box, but I'll answer that later.
Okay, Prajwal, if you want to ask your question or clarify a question, I've allowed you to unmute and talk. You can do that. Meanwhile, let's go on to the next question. How can we have access to data related to insurance claims? Not sure what this question means.
Yeah. So again, account aggregator. So insurance claims is not basically a part of the current ecosystem. So you can't be able to. So let's say if you have insurance at any company and you want to pull that data, that is not possible. But what you can do is mock that data. Let's say there is a certain pattern that this FIP data follows. You can actually check that in this particular page. You can actually go to the insurance section and see how the data is. Just create a JSON file on your end, and okay, this is what I want. Once this ecosystem matures and actually goes to the level where you can pull insurance data, you can definitely replace your constant data or the JSON data that you have created, basically with the API calls and all. But sure, for now, insurance data is not available in the account aggregator ecosystem.
All right. Next question. I think Irfan or somebody can take this. What does power data signal mean? This term was used in the under the purpose of the hackathon section.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, the nature of the data that is available, okay, to the participants here is verified data of user, okay, that you can get by onboarding essentially account aggregator, by letting your app onboard essentially account aggregator as an FIU. And then of course there is the population level data, which is telling you as to how a population essentially spends. Okay. What do they spend on? How does it look like? Okay. and what's the value looking like, okay, down to the demographic level, okay, which has geographic cuts right down to zip codes, Shekhar, right? Right down to zip codes, right?
Correct.
That's very powerful. Those are very extremely powerful signals for you, okay? So that's what it means. Yeah, as for sort of examples of what can get built, yeah, those have been covered in the themes initially.
Good. Thanks, Irfan. For Setu, once someone revokes the consent, how does the account aggregator ensure that the data provided is deleted or not used by the institution to which the data was earlier provided?
GB, you want to take that? I've been speaking since a long time.
Sorry, yeah. Once someone revokes a consent, okay, so this is mostly regulatory. So any person who has to become an FIU has to be a regulated entity. Means they have to be licensed by some government authority of India. So that means that you undergo audits and all of that, right? So and no, not any business can just come in and store data and make misuse of it. But technically, it is a legal requirement and not a technically enforceable requirement at this time.
Thank you. Okay, top 5 example apps that can be built for the hackathon. Anybody?
Yeah, I guess we covered top 10, I guess, already.
Finance management system, like someone who can give me finance insights about how much I spent.
So loan monitoring, okay. Personal finance management, robo advisory.
One thing I really want to see is make phone, like not a replica, but try to make a replica of PhonePe's Pulse site, right? They have these really nice visualizations. Why not build one on top of that? Why not build a visualization site for yourself using the PhonePe Pulse data? So I think that will also be pretty cool.
Cool. I think we got more than 5 ideas there. Thank you. If someone is creating a lending journey, then what is the use of this data? Maybe this was asked when you were answering some other question, but.
Yeah. So lending journey again, what do we say? For lending, you need certain amount of data or so again, right? Like there are around 23 data types that the account aggregator ecosystem aims to include when it actually is fully mature. But for now, only one sort of data, which is bank account details, are there. For lending, let's say, what you can do basically is maybe check if my credit versus debit is actually positive. Because in some way, if you actually given me a loan or something like that, just to see my financial health and if this person can actually repay me back or not. So that can be a pretty good use case. Maybe send an alert saying that, okay, there is a negative balance or the credit minus debit is negative. That means this person can't pay for that month. That sort of a thing can be used, but a proper lending journey can't be built with the current data that is possible in the ecosystem.
All right. What qualifies as a working prototype? Is an Android app mandatory? I think no, right?
No.
Okay, cool. One of the use cases as an example of making claims transparent. So is data related to claims also provided in that repo? And yeah, okay.
No, again, reiterating, there is no claims data. It's just bank account data. So if you wanted, you can just mock it on your end and build on top of it. Yeah.
It's easy to sort of mock data for different FI types. Okay.
Yeah.
All 23 FI types sample data is very much available to be mocked.
Yeah.
Cool. What is the fetch type object that is periodic or one time mentioned in API docs? Can you give some examples?
Yes, this was answered already.
Answered already. Okay. Where can we see post hackathon projects? I think it should be available on the DevFolio site itself. Aniket.
Yeah.
So are the submissions, are they visible to everyone or?
So basically, once you have made the submission to the hackathon,
Right.
you can go to the site itself and you can check out all the submissions which has been made.
Sure. What we'll also be doing is probably that the winning hacks will probably feature it on the main website also. So keep a lookout for that after 28th Feb.
And also, like on Devfolio, once the winners are announced, we can mark them as winners and their projects will be pinned on top.
There you go. So both the websites will have it. How will the final pitching work? Will there be a live demonstration? Guru, no, I think you have to submit it using Devfolio. What we are also requesting is that you submit a 5-minute video demo of how the app works. And our judges will go through your GitHub repo and will probably even ask you, for the implementation of it somewhere. And if we do have questions, then we might do a Hangouts call with you or a Zoom call to figure out other questions. What we do plan to do is for the top 5 hacks, we will do a live demo on 28th, but this will we'll ask the finalists to record their video earlier so that we don't waste time in that. All right. Expectation in hackathon same as sample app shown with connected API to fetch data. No, I think the sample app was just something that they had showed. You don't need to create something similar to that. And I think we've already explained a lot about what type of hacks are okay. Can we use Aadhaar e-sign experience in app using Setu? Gandharv or Aditya?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can still use that, but probably you might, you can write to me. Maybe I can give you access to it, right? Currently, we have access only to account aggregator, but if you really want to use Aadhaar e-sign, sure, that'll be an interesting merge of using products. Yeah.
Cool. Nice question. Tushar has a question. Can a DApp such as a money borrowing money to remove the dependency of centralized authorities such as bank, and people can actually invest their money, and people who wants to borrow the money without the need of centralized authorities such as banks and provide benefit to the depositor and borrower? I think this is a follow-up to his decentralized question.
I think maybe can we take this offline, Tushar, because you have actually been into a very deep research on this dApps. We can definitely take this offline and discuss. What I can do is maybe you can join the Setu account aggregator community where you can just ping me there. So I think we can actually take this up there.
Sure. Can you, you've already given the link for that, right?
Yeah, or the Discord channel, right? I think.
Okay. Yeah, just go to the Discord channel and ask the question, Tushar.
Sure. Yeah, Discord works.
Yeah. We can just use account aggregator module of Setu. Yes, you can absolutely use account aggregator module of Setu. How can we get credit score?
I think it's credit score. Yeah.
Yeah, credit score from account related data, or we can create our own. I'll go to create credit score.
Yeah, I think you can probably create your own algorithm. That'll be cool. But I think there's also standard ways of how credit scores are calculated. Maybe you can look that up as well. But writing your own algorithm makes sense. Also is cool.
Is it possible to give some insights on the kind of open data available on other sources mentioned in the description of the hackathon? I don't think we have insights into those data. Irfan, maybe you want to answer that?
I can try. Okay. But the goodness one can derive, one will have to go through it. Okay. Just look at the RBI payments data. Okay. So that is pretty in depth on how essentially the payments are being carried out. Same goes for government open data platform. Okay. Since I don't know like what expectation you're carrying. Okay. I guess once you get to take a look at the data, perhaps it might be easier for you to figure out whether it's going to be useful in your current hackathon or not.
Cool. Thanks, Irfan. will there be opportunities to any winners on hackathon in PhonePe? I can't officially say this, but I think we would love to have the winners to be in PhonePe, or I'm sure even Setu would like to have them on board. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Reach out to us. Related to hackathon, can we make UPI payment on behalf of others? UPI credit system.
We may have, if you look at docs.setu.co, you also can see payments as a option. So basically you can mock payments for now, where you get a credit alert and stuff like that. But yeah, you can use our payment sandbox as well if you want to use it right now.
Just another question, PhonePe team. I mean, is it just that folks who are participating should use only PhonePe Pulse data, or they can maybe sign up for your APIs as well, maybe to do something on payments related stuff for your APIs?
Irfan, do you want to answer that?
So Aditya, there aren't any APIs as such exposed out of PhonePe as of now, and especially for this hackathon. So
Understood.
the PhonePe Pulse data that is there essentially is all available in GitHub. Okay, folks can actually take a dump of it, okay, and read it out from their local resource.
Sure. No, just because people want to do a lot of cross-selling or cross-functional things, maybe I thought, like, is it okay to do that? But no, I think it makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hold on. We have somebody, Arpit Kumar Mishra wants to ask a question. Arpit, just give me a second. I will unmute you. Go ahead, Arpit.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just asked you UPI payment on behalf of others. Nicely answered regarding the Setu. But in general, I just want to know, like currently the UPI system only works if I have a SIM on my system. But can we provide UPI on behalf of others? Like even though some person has not the SIM in his phone, but he can do UPI payment from other device. So like currently many companies are coming with a UPI credit system. Like credit means they will not use their money. They will, like bank or any company will pay on behalf of them to the vendor.
Yeah, I mean, so technically use P2P. I mean, I as a user cannot make a UPI payment on behalf of others. But as a bank, as a business, if I have directly integrated with bank APIs, yeah, I can probably give you credit and, do the actual UPI transfer via API directly. But only banks can do this.
Only banks can do it. Any lead where you can provide me so that I can connect with someone, like if you can help me with this, because I want to do something related to this.
I mean, for the hackathon, I would suggest you mock it, right? I don't think you'll be able to anyways do it live, right? Like going live on a bank and, getting your system live won't happen in the next 5 days, 4 days at least. But if you still want to do this after the hackathon, you can always ping me. I'll try to get you in touch with the right people.
Yeah, sure. That will be really
For now,
good.
I suggest you mock it. For the hackathon, I would suggest you mock everything.
Yeah, like I tried to, like the point which you mentioned, this only for the banks. So I tried to like search over the UPI official API. I couldn't find anything. So like the only possible way is to connect through the banks.
Correct. Direct, yeah, bank APIs, yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Sure.
Cool. That's all the Q&A questions we have. If anybody has any other questions, we'll wait for 2 more minutes. Sagar and Gitanjali, your hands are raised. Do you want to ask a question? Or okay, maybe not. All right, we'll wait for 1 more minute, and if we don't have any more questions, we'll end the session. Cool. Thank you all participants for joining in, and a bigger thanks to all the panelists for taking time out and answering all the questions. As mentioned before, this video will be hosted on the Fintech Open website, so you can catch it there. And if you have any other questions, you can join the Discord channel, which is also mentioned on the Fintech Open Hackathon website. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.